There are two big windows that we are going to need for lighting and making colors on our vase of flowers. The first one is the render view, and you're going to need a render view because the render view is going to show you your output, and the output is 1,000 times more important than what you see here in the perspective view. We'll be using the Arnold render engine, and in order to see the Arnold render view, you're just going to go to your Arnold menu and click the render button. And in just a second, you should see me get this lovely dark black square in my render view. This is what my output looks like right now. And before I fix that, just want to show you a couple things about the render view. First, down at the bottom, this number 000001, that is the time that it takes for the render to process. So right now it took 1 second to process this black square, which is pretty quick, not too bad. Then I've got 960 by 540. That is the pixel dimension of my black square. I am currently rendering on my CPU rather than my GPU. I am looking through the perspective camera, and my render is currently 1:1 or full size. My sample settings are about my output quality, and we'll talk more about that much later. This is the approximate size the file would be if I saved it out. I don't set a lot of store by that. And then finally at this end, there's a little camera button that will let me take a snapshot. A snapshot is just a little image that Arnold saves in its memory. It doesn't output, it doesn't get written anywhere. If you right-click on it, you'll see that you can use Set as A and Set as B, so you can do a compare-contrast between two renders. Or if you don't like it, you can always just delete it, and then the button next to the camera will open and close the snapshot bar. Up across the top, the most important thing for you to know is this big red square. You see, Arnold does this thing called IPR, or Interactive Pixel Rendering, and that means that anytime I make a change out here in 3D space, like this, you'll see that Arnold goes through this process and redoes the render. Now, once we start adding lights and materials to the scene, that is probably going to cause your computer to make angry airplane noises. So being able to pause the IPR is incredibly helpful. That's this button right here. When you're in pause mode, this is a refresh button, and the refresh button will run the render just as a single shot instead of turning the IPR back on. So those are the most important things about the window. Here's your render time. Those are your image details. You can save a snapshot for comparison purposes, and you can start and stop the IPR. I'm going to turn the IPR back on, and now I'm going to make my render look like something other than a big black square. See, the thing with Arnold is that Arnold is a physically based renderer, and it doesn't have any default lights. And that's because in physically based rendering, your light is the most important thing in the scene. So, in order to see anything, you need to have lights that you specifically place. We're going to keep this simple for now, and in the Arnold menu, under Lights, I am going to put in a light called a physical sky. And the physical sky is just a really nice, user-friendly way to illuminate the whole entire scene. See, now I can see all of my flowers. I can see this weird little fakey horizon line. That's okay. I'm just going to throw a plane, a little polygon plane into the scene real quick and make it bigger so that you can see the shadow. I'm going to recommend that you do this as well. Some people like to use a cylinder or another cube so that it looks more like their vase is sitting on a tabletop. That's up to you. I'm just going to use a plane for now. With the physical sky node, it's connected to a thing called a sky dome light, and a sky dome is a giant sphere that just encompasses your whole entire scene. If you want to make any adjustments to the physical sky because you don't like the angle that it's at, maybe you want this side to be illuminated, it's just not there, that's okay, you can do that. So far, we've spent our whole entire lives living here in the channel box, but for lighting, you're going to need your attribute editor. I've selected the sphere, the sky dome light itself, and if you look at its first attribute, color, you'll see that it's got this little square with an arrow pointing into it. That's a downstream node. If I click on the downstream node, that'll take me to the physical sky. And in the physical sky, the two things you're going to care about are elevation and azimuth. The azimuth controls the angle of the sun. So maybe I want the sun to be over here. And now I can see the shadows pointing back. The sun is coming in towards my flowers. And then the elevation is like the time of day. So if I slide it up further, I'll get shorter shadows. It'll be more like noon. And if I put it down lower, you'll see that the whole scene gets darker. Now it's more like a dawn or dusk kind of a situation. So these are the two big things that you can adjust to manipulate your physical sky. Let's see if I can get a good shot. Maybe like that is good enough for me. And again, to access the physical sky, you're going to click onto your sky dome light, switch from your channel box to your attribute editor, and then follow the downstream node here. The downstream node should take you to your physical sky, where you've got your azimuth and your elevation. The window where you see things is the Arnold render view. That's in the Arnold menu. Just click the render button. The light that we added is also in the Arnold menu. It's the physical sky. And whenever you need to pause your IPR, you just hit that button and give your computer a little rest. Okay, take a minute, give your vase something to sit on, add a sky dome, and make any adjustments that you might need. When you're ready, you can join me in the next video where we'll talk about the other big window that we're going to be using.